Hi friends, welcome back to another episode of the Homecomings podcast. I'm your host, Evelina Olachowska, multi-passionate creative, designer, and founder of My Dear Design Studio. And I'm so excited to introduce today's guest today on the episode, my dear friend, Barbora. And, I think I've mentioned in these intros several times, what I've been doing this season compared to previous ones is recording intros in real time. And the reason of doing this is one, not only to streamline the post-production process with these episodes, but also because when I get off my interviews with my guests, I just feel so freshly invigorated, and the topics that we just talked about are just top of mind. And so it's easier for me to just do a little bit of an introduction and preface for you guys tuning in just to know what you're in for, in addition to telling you more about the guests and how I've come to, know the individual. So today's intro is full of so much, emotion and life to preface this beautiful conversation that I had with Barbora. Because there was a lot of emotion and life on this call. Barbora, if I can summarize Barbora in just one sentence, I asked her, Barbora, what do you call yourself when we finished recording? Because Barbora, again, like probably every guest I have on the show, is an absolute multi-passionate and does so much and has experienced such a beautiful life journey. But in this season, Somatic and Emotional Release Guide is the title. If we could limit it to one, of course, with everyone, but Somatic and Emotional Release Guide is what Barbora would call herself, and the work that she does, her life purpose in this season of life, in working with individuals, helping them to really come to know themselves, and working with somatics, the body, breath work, and also emotional release, which involves really understanding the stories and the narratives that you grow up with, that you hold on to, that prevent you from really living your authentic life. And it's just been so beautiful to have this chat with her and come to understand not only the work that she does more, but specifically her journey and what brought her to doing this work, and what really came out of the incredible stories that she shares. This episode, you guys, is one of those where the lessons and the questions and the downloads and realizations that I had, and hopefully a lot of you listening, if not all of you listening, will have, come from the stories that Barbora shares. Because I personally love, like, one of my most favorite podcast episodes are those where I tune in and someone just takes me on a journey of telling me about an experience that they lived through. A story, a really intentional, beautiful, profound story. Because there's so much in those story moments that not only are captivating and interesting and inspiring, but that are relatable, in that I can see myself in those situations, maybe not the same, but similar. And so much, if not all of this conversation with Barbora today, was me finding so much resonance in what she had to share from her stories and experiences, whether that was in traveling, whether that was in connecting with different individuals on her experiences, whether that was in meeting her partner. I just just have really, in the bits and pieces of what she was sharing, I was seeing so much of myself. And it really invited an opportunity for me to look deeper and find gratitude and appreciation for what I have lived through just by hearing her stories and her personal experiences. So I invite you guys, as you tune into this episode, to be open to listening to all that Barbora has to share and see what comes up for you. See what gets sparked within you, whether it's a memory of something you have experienced, whether that was, an interaction with someone that, came into your life in the past or currently is in your life, or any relationships that you're involved in, whether it's personal, romantic. A lot of the conversation, and through Barbora's stories, we really get to understand the magic that happens and the support that we are essentially reminded of at all times when we stay open to the journey and we follow what brings us joy. So Barbora's stories of traveling, being guided to go to Hawaii after working with our joint mentor that we were working with, and I'll give a bit of context in a moment here, but Barbara's journey of venturing from Malta, where she was living when we had connected 2 years ago, to Hawaii from a deep internal knowing, a vision essentially that came up for her, and knowing like, I think I have to go to Hawaii, to then venturing to Slovakia, her home country, to then going to Turkey and meeting her life partner, to then venturing back to Slovakia. I mean, these journeys that she lets us in on are so powerful. And for me, what I garnered is really the reminder of like being open to the guidance, being open to all these synchronicities, all these, what I like to call, we can call coincidences, right? Those are just moments of you really, if you zoom out, being guided by God, by being guided by the Holy Spirit in where you are meant to go, where you are meant to be. You're being reminded that you're meant to be there. You're meant to be doing this. And so that was so much of Barbara's journey and her travels. And then, oh my gosh, you guys, I mean, I'll spare details because you'll hear them in this part of our chat, but we dive very deep into relationships in this conversation. And she so openly and vulnerably talks about the dynamic that she has been navigating with her partner, who she met while she was in Turkey. And again, these travels, for context too, were all predicated upon her learning and coming to grow her gifts in this somatic and emotional release work. She was going for trainings and workshops there and was meeting all these beautiful individuals along the way, one of which was her boyfriend. And nothing is held back in this part of the conversation around the beautiful yet uncomfortable lessons that come up in intimate partnership. So much of what she was sharing along her journey was literally like an exact mirror for me with what I've been experiencing with my boyfriend, my partner, who I've mentioned here and there, in the season so far, the lessons that have come up, and really the takeaway that I want to leave you guys with that you'll hear more about in our conversation is that when you do find that person that activates you, that really like gets planted on your path to expand you and force you to grow, it doesn't always feel like the rainbows and butterflies that you might be told or, see on social media of like, when you know, and you found the one and like, yay. It's like, I don't know, man. I mean, those people, I'd love to have a deeper conversation with them, because if there's something that I've personally taken away from my relationship this last year, and a lot of what Barbara has illuminated for us with her partnership, is a true conscious, aware relationship takes a lot of work, and it's really uncomfortable. And so many times we confuse that discomfort for it being wrong, or when we're shown real love, like real, pure, deep love with a safe person who doesn't allow us to hide or run away, it's actually really scary. Like you think, a lot of people are after true love, but a lot of people might not be ready to receive it because they've never experienced it in the past. So it's easy to confuse it for a red flag, or, this is where sabotage could come in, and doubts and questions and all of that stuff. So, it got personal in this one, friends. I mean, I really felt so seen by Barbara's experiences, and I truly hope, whether you're in a season of being in a relationship with someone, whether you're seeking to find that person for you, there is just a spark within you that gets activated in hearing the dialogue that we have. Because I mean, I literally got stirred like emotionally when talking to her about this part, because it was so personal to me and so near and dear. So I'm very excited to really just share this conversation. Barbara is just, oh my gosh, I don't know, the most open, beautiful human. And the pleasure of interviewing her in this chat, just again, I'm feeling quite lit up. I'm feeling quite, I'm feeling a lot right now, guys. If you can't tell by my voice and just where I'm going with this intro. So I'll let you guys tune in and listen. Lastly, what I just want to share is how Barbara and I came to meet, because you might be wondering, how do I know this special human soul from across the world? She, at the time of this recording, she was in Majorca with her partner. She's originally from Slovakia. Again, like how did I come to know this individual from the other side of the world? And I had, if you had tuned into episode 2 of the season so far, my guest, Sass Bailey, who I interviewed, I had shared in that intro that Sass was someone who I came to meet through working with a mentor 2 years ago, Samson Odusanya, who I had the pleasure of interviewing a few seasons ago on the podcast. Again, I'll link that episode in the show notes here. But Samson, I have deep gratitude for that experience because that was a 12-week breathwork virtual program that I had joined and completely transformed my life. And in that process, I had the opportunity to connect with 7 other very special individuals. And Sass from episode 2 and Barbara were 2 of those individuals. And Barbara and I have just stayed connected on Instagram. And after I had released the episode with Sass a few weeks ago, Barbara had commented and had inquired, and we were chatting a bit over Instagram DM. And what she had shared in her Instagram responses so viscerally landed for me because we were talking about this season or this topic of change that the season is focused on of the podcast. And when she shared her experience with change since we had our, group with Samson 2 years ago, I immediately knew, I'm like, I have to have you on the podcast because I want to know more what you've experienced and went through, because what you're sharing is so close to home for me because it's exactly what I've been going through. And I mean, in every share that she shared in this conversation, I felt so seen. And I am just, very much looking forward to putting this dialogue out. So hopefully anyone else tuning in and listening also feels that resonance, also feels that relatability in the stories Barbara has shared and just in everything that we touch on in this dialogue. So thank you again, Barbara. So deeply grateful for you. And without further ado, you guys, I give you this lovely, heart-opening, vulnerable conversation with my dear friend, Barbara. Barbara, I am so excited to have you on the show today. We just pressed record, but prior to us recording, we already just got into talking about so many good things, and you were sharing so much, and I was writing in my little notebook, and I have so many questions and just like prompts to go deeper. So first and foremost, welcome. I'm so happy to have you.
I'm so happy to be here and to connect with you. And it's just such a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you for being open to this again. In our chats and our Instagram DMs, that your responses that you were sharing with me, I'm like, I need to chat with you more. We need to record this. We need to share this with the world. I want other people to hear, what we have to say about this because we have a lot to say. And I think there will be a lot of resonance for people listening. So very much looking forward to this conversation. And so before I dive into asking you all the questions that I have, let's kick off with my little opener that I like to ask every guest, which is, what is something that is bringing you joy this month?
Oh, joy. So joy is for me such a interesting topic actually lately, because my relationship with joy is that I sometimes used to push the joy away from me because I felt like a bit, I would say like a guilty that I am maybe too joyful and I should be rather like focusing on something really serious and not on the joy, because joy is something what, like it's too common, and I want something deep. I want something bigger. But my relationship with joy right now, it's feeling like it's more like a home than anything I am searching for from outside, and I feel it within me. And it's coming from that place of just gratitude, of being grateful for anything and everything. And any experience in my life feels like it's a joyful moment to drink the water, to be in the nature. I really like to spend the time with nature and to connect with the nature, like really connect by touching the trees, touching the ground, touching the plants and anything, and that feels joyful for me. The same like spending time with my partner and being in connection with him, being in connection with my family, and actually sharing what I love to do. And all of this is like, it's like a joyful moment. And rather than just waiting for like one specific thing to come from outside, it's just like just embody that joyful state within me, and then anything else from around can be joyful.
Oh, ooh,
Yeah.
all the feels with your response
Mm.
and a lot of resonance for me, especially with what you shared at the beginning around even just being open to joy.
Mm.
My word of the year for this year, I chose ease. And
Mm.
it's an exciting word for me, but it also comes with a little bit of discomfort because something that I've been practicing and working on is living in more ease. I think we're so used to feeling like life has to be hard and pushing against things. And similar to joy, it's like you question sometimes when things happen. It's like, is this too good to be true? Or like, do I deserve this? Or is this
Yeah.
actually for me? And it feels, again, it sounds counterintuitive to say, but I feel like, I mean, I personally have grappled with it to hear you experience it. I think this is all to say that it's so much more common than we think. Like, I think this is just probably a natural, very natural, normal human inclination and tendency to feel like, who are we to be so happy and in our light?
Mm.
When really I have to remind myself, like, this is how it's supposed to be. This is our natural, right as humans and tendency. So
Yes.
love, love, love what you shared. And I think what I appreciate too is it's the little things, because I'm so big about this idea of finding beauty in the mundane or the ordinary. It's like, how do you garner the most from the least in a way? So even like a walk
Mm-hmm.
outside or drinking your water, like, ooh, just for people listening, the reminder maybe that we all need frequently every day to pause, to slow down and remember it's the little things too that count a lot. So thank you. Thank you for sharing that.
Yes, absolutely. It's exactly as you mentioned, slowing down and just like perceiving that moment instead of like rushing to like, what is the next thing which is going to bring me happiness or joy? Just like let's feel it right now as we are. And even in the moments where we feel like it's challenging for us in this moment in life, or we have certain circumstances or situations in life that give us like a hardship or challenge, even in those moments we can find joy. And we should not put the joy somewhere outside, as like I can just say like it was always like that for me, like I have to work hard for the things, I have to deserve it, I have to do so much for that. But in this moment of my life I really notice like it's really different, and
Yeah.
that is so peaceful to be in this stage of my life too, like
I want to ask you, and I wonder because where my mind is going as you answer this question is, I'm from Poland, yours from Slovakia, and I think there's so much about, at least I feel for my Eastern European culture. Like I look at my mom, I look at my aunties, and they don't know how to relax. It's always like go, go, go. And if the house isn't clean on Saturdays, then it's game over. And they're always doing. And whenever I ask my mom, it is interesting because the more that I dive into this work and, become more aware and also find my own relationship with joy and ease and being in presence, when, especially for my mom, who's very much still living in this world of doing and doing and doing, when I ask her, oh, what are you doing today? When I call her on the weekend, she's like, what do you think I do? What do you think I'm doing? Like, I have to clean. And
mm,
I'm able to just, ooh, like see it so clearly now of, that being her story and that being her need. And I can acknowledge for myself where for most of my life that those were the stories that were also running my worldview and perspective. And so I'm curious for you if you feel from maybe a cultural standpoint, but also maybe from your upbringing, of how much those narratives influenced that belief prior to you now of feeling like you have to work hard for, happiness or ease or any of that.
yeah, I'm so glad that you touched on this topic because it definitely has so much to do, not just the cultural or like what I saw in my household, but even like our ancestors. When you just look back how our ancestors used to live, there was not really space for enjoyment or for something what we call now like relaxation or chilling. They were all just working hard and working hard in order to survive, because the circumstances were like that, right? If you didn't go to work on the field, you didn't have food later on in the winter, or if you didn't go to take care of your farm, of your cow, chicken,
Right.
and pigs,
Yeah.
and everything else, like you didn't eat. And even in those moments, the families were really big, so the children were maybe like 10 children in
Yep.
one family.
Yeah.
And I mean, what mother had to do, what else than to work and to be strict and to not even think about nothing else, just like working and surviving. And through that, we really got it back from those generations back. And it's like whenever we maybe even feel like this is too much for us, or this feels that this is not with my resonance with who I am, that I want to be always just focusing on doing, then suddenly this emotion of guilt comes up, because we feel guilty for not kind of honoring that maybe the ancestors, how they lived before us, or honoring that my mother sacrificed so much for me, and now I am not going to do this for her, to help her in the house, or do it for my own family, and so on. So the cultural thing is a real thing. And even my mom, when I was younger, she used to be so much more strict. And this is what how I grew up in in my home. That whenever I was helping my mom and I helped her, and she came to check on me, and it was not just good enough to her standard, I had to repeat the task again until it was like really up to perfection, you know. And this is where my pattern of being perfectionist and being super strict with myself and being in control of everything even started. But then at certain point of your life comes the time when you feel like, oh, I don't feel good in me, and you start to question like, why, what is it causing? And then of course you usually need the help of someone else. So it was in my case Samson, our the person who we connected through in our coaching container. He really gave me that space to look at me, like where it all started, and through that work I could really connect with how beneficial it was in a certain way, but how exhausting it is in the other way, and how important it is then to get touch with our inner truth, and then to choose a different life from that space, you know. Because as much as good it is to work hard, to have a clean house, to have a good food on the table, it's not enjoyable if you don't slow down and like really connect with yourself, and
Yeah.
yeah, be like that.
Yeah.
Mm.
I'm curious, how was that journey for you to remove yourself from those stories or to face them and practice letting them go? Because for myself,
And there was so much resistance, first
oh
of all,
yeah.
because I tell you, there is no way I even was aware of them. And when I came to the idea of like, oh, my story can be different than I was telling this to myself my whole life, it felt completely impossible that it can be a different way, or there is a different truth, and there is a deeper truth, and truth without all the projections and all the all the things that I believed in. So first of all, a lot of resistance, and then came the time when I like gave that possibility, like, okay, probably there is a different way because I feel like this, and then it came with so much awareness to everyday life, and like just noticing myself, and through that that I could notice myself, that I could observe myself and basically see myself and how I project everything to other people around me and to the relationships and life around me. I could really recognize like, oh my god, this is how I was, and in that process start to choose differently. So just try things. For example, if I always for example, I will say a story that I always like to take care of cleaning of the house, because I know that if I'm going to do the cleaning, everything is going to be perfect. And if I ask someone to help me and they don't help me immediately, I think it's not going to be done. But if I'm going to, for one moment, notice like, oh my God, this is because I'm doing this because of the perfectionism and control conditioning which I got from my childhood, then in that moment I can just say, okay, so if I'm not going to do the cleaning, let's see what's gonna happen if someone is gonna come and is going to do the cleaning from their own initiative, not because I have to tell them or because I have to ask for that. So I let it be, and suddenly next day I come and the house is clean because somebody
Oh,
else
you
took that
surrendered.
initiative.
Yeah, and you
Yes,
surrendered in that moment.
yes, exactly, surrender. And in that moment you see like, oh, so it can be differently if I just give it the space and I open myself to receive something different than
Yeah.
I'm used to. And this story, which I said, is just one example, but there are so many little things in life that we can, and I could notice myself how I'm trying to control and how I'm trying to manage everything and make everything perfect. And then once I either ask for help or I either let people to take initiative, suddenly I live a different life, different
Yeah.
story,
Well, what I love so
and
much
so
about
much better.
yeah, what I love so much about the example you shared is it's almost like with this journey, with whatever journey we're on of like breaking some sort of a pattern or habit, it what I've realized is it takes repetitions. Like you don't sometimes if it's a smaller thing, you do it once and then it's fine, right? But then there are those
Mhm.
deeper, more ingrained beliefs and programmings that we've just been raised on all of our lives that you constantly need to be reminded and learn the lessons probably hundreds of times in certain instances. But what I love about the example you shared was you had this moment where you were going to go back to a tendency that you have, which is I need to clean, or maybe for me it's like Saturday is Polish house cleaning day. Like all of my cousins, all of my family members, like they know on Saturday Polish people clean. And similar for me, like I can see myself in that situation. Saturday morning comes, I'm like, okay, I have to do this. But what was beautiful in what you shared was number one, you brought awareness to the circumstance. So you saw it for what it was, and then you chose to do something differently. But I think in that process too, you surrendered to a different outcome. And I think what's lovely is because you did surrender and you were shown the next day that it could essentially be so much easier. It's almost like you get that internal, or well, it's in this way it was external, but in a regard you can think it also happened inside proof that if I do this and I do it a different way, not only am I shown that something can happen differently, but it feels better or lighter or easier. And so it almost gives you this like internal confidence I could see, and that reassurance that like, okay, you got this. Like you can keep going. And if you have to learn that lesson again, maybe next time it'll be a little faster and it'll be a little easier. And that for me is what I've garnered to be the process of breaking through those
Mhm.
beliefs and those really sticky patterns. And it starts with the little things like the observations, choosing differently. So I
Yeah.
love that. And, hopefully for people tuning in and listening, they too can come up with moments where yeah, they've had experiences where you had to learn something time and time again, but over time it got easier. And so, again, just that little confidence builder internally when you go through that. So, ooh, yeah, thank you so much for sharing a lot of relatability in that for me, especially again with our culture and all that. I see it time
Yeah.
and time again too in family, and I have constant conversations about it. Um, I want to ask, and this is again like an introductory but simple question, but to ground us deeper into your journey and your story, I want to ask the question of who is Barbara? So you can give context for the listeners before I ask some deeper questions around what essentially has unfolded for you in the last couple of years. But if someone were to ask you that, I mean, like I literally am, and you can feel free to
Mhm.
take it in whatever direction, but how would you describe who you are in this season?
Mm.
Feel free to speak to, your past, maybe just grounding it into what you're currently doing, but who is Barbara?
Yeah, this is such a like big container because I like to say I am who I am because I am like unfolding piece of a human being who is always like on the journey of I'm like so hungry for the self-query, for the opening more myself to different experiences and understanding. But when I say like I want to understand this world and myself more, in the same time I know it's like a bit of limiting perspective on on my experience, because understanding is ultimately protecting me from experiencing it. Because
Mm-hmm.
understanding is rather like on the mental level, and I want to like just like experience and flow and through different life situations and circumstances, just to get to know myself more and the whole universe. But this is like a little bit on the like more general thing. And when we come to who I am, what I do, right now in my journey, I'm like a space holding for the somatic and emotional release, facilitating a safe spaces for people to come to reconnect with their deepest truths and to step into their potential to live their lives through truth, through self-realization, through knowing that they are the ultimate creators of their journeys. And this is what I feel like this has been always somehow part of my life since very young age. I felt like I'm so curious and I want to get to know the human soul and everything what it comes with. And that journey led me firstly to work as a spa manager, because I was how you say it in English?
Inspired.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
inspired.
Mm-hmm.
I was so inspired by the human body and by all the wisdom which it carries. So I started to study about the massages, and then after through the journey of studying the massages, I started to work in the spa, where I, as I mentioned, became a spa manager. And in the journey, I had to coach people, work with the people on the psychological level, and as well I was like getting to know a little bit more the energetic connection of the body and reiki and all these different topics. But there was always something like missing in this path, and that's how I got to the Emotional Releases Institute, and they really created this container where everything connected for me. And now I feel like this is who I am, like just experiencing and like always uh, trying to explore more and more about who I am, and connections with people make me happy, and traveling and being creatively expressive myself through different things like lyrics, cooking, baking, painting, and anything like what makes me happy. And first of all, I like to say that I'm a playful individual, like just play and just really explore the life like kids do. So that
Mm.
is for me like ultimate inspiration. Like I see an 8-year-old girl outside playing, being so much in her flow, and I'm like, this is who I want to be when I grow up.
Oh, that's so good. And what's funny is, starting off this conversation with the topic of joy and you mentioning, previously having resistance to it. From
Hmm.
what you just shared, I'm like, you are the epitome of following joy and just doing all that lights you up. and embracing all of it. I really appreciate, your journey from you mentioned, little clues that it sounds like you had along the way when you were younger, this curiosity. I relate to that very much. I think that's also what's gotten me
Mhm.
here is just staying very curious to just want to know and understand. Like I always feel like I'm after understanding the questions of life. But on that same front, what you mentioned at the beginning before you even got into your answer is almost like the downfall of seeking to understand. And
Yeah.
this has been such a big thing for me recently of trying to really pay attention to. And I really like I think my mentor that I'm working with who reminds me like it's not always about understanding the why because I'm so used to, or I just have this hunger of like wanting to know why something is happening. And what I didn't realize is in that process, by doing that, it's this really sneaky subliminal way of me seeking control. Because if I understand why this is happening, then in some weird way, it gives me some sort of like control in knowing and like a safety. And what you were speaking to, I really appreciate because it is such a powerful reminder of it's not so much about always understanding. And the more that you go do that, it takes away from the experience and just being.
Mhm.
And it very much sounds like you have tuned into the being and just following the little clues that have gotten you here that ultimately are in such a lovely place. Something that I'd love to ask you about. You and I were chatting before we pressed record about so much of the changes that have happened in life, especially in the last 2 years since we first got connected and where we are now and what's unfolded. But you were led on this journey of us working together with Samson and then following this nudge of inspiration to go to Hawaii. And this is what you spoke about getting. Is it the emotional release certification?
Yes.
Yeah. And so I want to dive deeper in with you about that because you had said at one point in sharing that with me that there were so many of these synchronicities that happened and paying
Yes.
attention to synchronicities, coincidences. Samson actually recommended a book when I had interviewed him on this episode called When God Winks. And it's for anyone listening, definitely check it out on Amazon and I'll link it here in the show notes because it's such a quick read and it's just full of these little stories that talk about these coincidences. And a lot of times we take them for granted or we don't see them because we're so busy doing that we're not being and listening and paying attention. But it's these moments, it's these God wings, these synchronicities, these coincidences that is literally God talking to us of like, hello, like this is what you're meant to do, like you're meant to be here, or these are the clues that I'm just literally laying out for you to follow. And so wherever you like feel called to start or share about that journey, I'd love to know more about your experience in Hawaii. What came up for you? What even led you there? You mentioned briefly,
Yeah.
Samson mentioning something to you. So yeah, share with us that.
Yes, it's my favorite story to share, to be honest. I
Mm,
love how I feel like somewhere either in my past lives or somewhere I used to be connected with Hawaii on deeper level,
mm,
because first time I stepped on the island, I felt like, oh, this is like a home. It feels so good and so familiar. And okay, let's start in the beginning. So
yes.
So when I had a session with Samson, it was like a breathwork session together, like with the body awareness. He was leading me through like a guided words, and then suddenly in that session, I saw some mountains and ocean, and I saw the eye of the whale from the side. And I just had this feeling inside of me like, oh, this is where I wanna go. This is what I want to visit. And when I shared this with Samson after the session, he said like, "Oh, this is amazing! Like you should go there." And I was like, "Yes, I'm gonna go there." But then after the fear mechanism kicked in, and I was like, "Oh, but this is too far. This is so expensive to go there. It is like, oh, is this really something what I'm gonna do?" But yeah, the Hawaii was very present through the months till I visited it. So This was like in October, and following year in April, I decided to finally go and to follow this calling. So it was magical from the beginning. So first, when I was just like changing the plane from LA to Hawaii, I met this amazing guy in the airport who saw that I'm kind of lost, and he was part of the employees in the airport, and he took me on the long journey through the streets of LA airport, which I was like, where I'm even going? This is like some kind of
Yeah,
like
nothing like Europe.
unbelievable. Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And he was so cool because he actually started to speak about the Hawaii, that he visited Hawaii many times,
Oh,
and it's an amazing
wow.
destination. And he was showing me the pictures of him and his son surfing in Hawaii, and I felt like, oh, this feels so safe. And then this person invited me for coffee, and I was like, how is it like possible like this? I don't think so it would ever happen to me in Europe or like in Slovakia, that someone would just tell me like, come for a coffee and tell me all the amazing stories about the Hawaii and what shall I visit and all the nice things. So it felt like already like very encouraging just
Did
in
you
the
go
LA.
did you go to coffee with him?
Yes,
Oh, you
he
did.
was.
That's so
Yeah,
cool.
yeah, he was like my pops. He's like a 60 years old guy, and I
Oh
felt so good and
my God.
safe with him.
That's
And
amazing.
yeah, it was like really amazing. And what is really funny, when I was flying from Hawaii, I we exchanged the numbers, and then I texted him like I'm in the LA airport again, and then we met for another coffee.
Oh my God, I love
So
I love this story so much. And I've had so many experiences myself too when I travel and I
yes.
meet these random people. And when I tell my friends or family sometimes, they're like, "How do you just like connect with these like strangers?" I'm like, I just have this knowing in me. And maybe it's the synchronicities, like in this instance for
Mhm.
you, he just so happened to be talking about Hawaii, where you were heading. And so I think this is such a lesson about our intuition that like when you
Yes.
know it feels good, like, you just can't really explain it. I'm like, I don't know, it just felt good. And so beautiful to hear that you honored that because I mean, I can imagine he illuminated so much for you about your trip that you were having. And then I imagine it was probably beautiful to regroup with him after your trip. So I love this.
Yeah, it was absolutely beautiful and magical, and it felt so yeah, like he felt like a family to me, like from the
Mhm.
first moment, like very close. And something what you mentioned is like when you meet with someone, it just feels like there is this resonance. I just want to say, like, it's so important to listen to this resonance because this is such a powerful tool, which not many people even are aware of, that there is such a thing like resonance. And through this resonance, we can move so much in our life, and especially when it comes to people. Not everyone is going to be your best friend. Not everyone is there to help you, especially when you, as a solo girl, are traveling. I mean, it's so important to like watch out for anything and to don't be naive
Yep.
with things, but to listen through that resonance. Like, do I feel safe with that person? Does this feel like a bit fishy or anything? Because this is very important while traveling. But when I arrived to Hawaii, so it was late. It was maybe like around 9 or 10 p.m. And I was gonna go to my hostel by bus, and I had only big dollar notes with me. I didn't have like a small change. And the buses in Hawaii, you need to have an exact change to insert it to the machine so you can get to the bus stop you need. But I didn't have this change, and the bus driver, the lady, just told me, "Okay, whatever, just get in. Come, I take you." I was like, really? And again, it felt so nice and so welcoming. And
You
I
were
felt like,
supported.
oh, yes, I'm supported. And this is what I was like saying to myself throughout the whole this period, like, I'm safe, I'm supported. I know that I'm being held and I am going to be guided and I am going to be always taken care of. Anything happens, and I think this is something what really helped me to move through this experience with so much ease and trust and openness, especially. because once you are open to receive, you can receive. But if you are not ready to receive and you are not open to receive, then it's very hardly to get anything even that you wanted. So yeah. So basically, I came to the Hawaii with only 3 nights book stay in the hostel. And I was checking about the prices in the Hawaii accommodation, like hotels or other places like Airbnb, and it was just so expensive. And I was like, oh, how I'm going to manage this? And I thought maybe I'm going to stay sitting the pets in somebody's place or find some other way how to basically stay there for much less money or some other way. But basically, I went for this beautiful walk the first day I came, and I don't know why there is like million surfer shops and rentals, right? You can get to rent the surfboard, and I just came to this beautiful like open complex of shops, and I found this super cool surf shop, and I came there, and the person who I met there was. As well a guy who basically it felt like he's so funny, he's so friendly, he's so helpful, and we just started to talk. And basically he rented me the board for the surfing, and then the next day I was going to surf again, so I came to the next day to the shop again to rent the surfboard. And I was telling him like, oh, there is like such expensive accommodation, like everything feels like it's just out of my budget, like do you know about something? And he said like, you know what, I may know someone who can help you, maybe like maybe you can stay in somebody's place, so I'm going to check for you. And I was like, oh, sure, cool. And I went to surf. And I was like thinking like, oh, this guy is never going to like
You
get
were
me
doubting it.
anything,
Yeah.
like in return, like he just said it like to like because I rented the surfboards from him, so probably he just wanted to be polite. But then when I went to return my surfboard to him, he came to me and he said like, I have this contact for you. This is the lady. She's really cool. She's super fun. She's doing the therapy. You are doing the somatics. So you are going to be matching for sure. And he just gave me the contact for this lady. I called her and she said, come to check my apartment. If you like it, you can stay in my spare bed. And I was like, what? This is really happening?
For free? Did she charge you?
She charged me like really minimum money,
Oh my
minimum. Like
gosh.
I was so impressed, but she was so
Wow.
helpful, and she wanted the minimum money, like really just for expenses. And that was like so cool because then suddenly I became such a good friend with this guy, and then after with the lady too. And she was
Wow.
like my mother and my best friend at the same time because like
Oh,
she was, we had so much to talk about since she has so much experience in life. And it was so inspiring for me that there is such a possibility of living life with such an open heart, of like receiving some people in your home. And she was like taking me around the Hawaii, telling me the different stories, showing me the different places, having a beer together in the end of the day, like just sharing. And that was so beautiful and
oh,
encouraging. And I could share some other stories, but basically throughout this whole period, I met such a beautiful people, so welcoming, so supporting, so inspiring, and it just really allowed me to open my heart like on such a level that I had not even awareness that is possible, and I didn't even know that my heart is closed before that. So
yeah.
it was just like when I experienced it and I felt it, I was just like, wow, this is so beautiful. Like, what is possible? Like, what is really possible in life? And I just got so inspired. Like, I want to experience more and I want to try, like, what else is possible? Like, how can I experience this life in a more fullness, in the more uh, joy, more juiciness? Like, how can I get the most out of it? And yeah, it was just
Well,
it just left
wow.
me so inspired and hyped up. And yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think what's so beautiful about all of your stories that you shared, and similar to what we were talking about around breaking like those cultural patterns at the beginning, is when you do it and you're shown that it could be easier and there's joy on the other side. Again, I don't know, maybe it's motivation or confidence or momentum, like those words that come up for me. but it's just little reminders that tell you like, oh, this could be good, this could be easy. And I think from the moment that you got there, I think if you were to have landed and have been in like anxiety or panic or like
Mhm.
really let your fear take over, I think that would have been like your worldview. That would have been your perspective and how you're seeing the whole situation unfold. You probably would have ignored this man if he walked up to you, or you might have not even seen him. And then that wouldn't have given you that initial little like safety support and nudge. But I think because you didn't do that and you stayed open, you met this guy, he gave you that little first spark, then you got there, the bus driver gave you the second spark, then the surf shop, and then the woman. And it was just like you were constantly being held and supported.
Yes.
And this is again like a close to home story for me because I'm thinking back of trips that I've had. It's so funny. I feel like when I travel, I feel the most safest. And again, I've traveled alone across the world to India by
Mhm.
myself. I have traveled, I mean, I fly domestically all the time, different experiences. And I don't know, people like my mom or family members will laugh and they'll be like, oh, Evelina, you live life with rose colored glasses or you're so naive. And yes, there's a little bit of that, but I don't know. I just, thank God, knock on wood, I've never had anything like disastrous happen. It's always these beautiful, unexpected things where I meet a stranger. And again, to a lot of people, it could be like, how do you just connect with this person? But I just truly believe when I travel, God is guiding me and speaking to me so clearly. And for some reason, I don't know, my intuition is so open. And I never actually like, gosh, it's interesting as I'm talking about it. I have always thought that I don't have a clear connection to my intuition because there are those moments in my life where I have a hard time discerning and deciding.
Mhm.
But yet now that I think about it, I'm like, no, there are also moments where I like things just pan out so beautifully. And I think to what we talked about with the intuition, it feels like this Hawaii trip for you was that of like that reminder of your connection to your intuition. And now I'm thinking in real time of moments where I have also experienced that. And so I wonder for you with that experience in Hawaii and after that you shared with me, after Hawaii, you traveled to Turkey and then you had all these other unfoldings in life.
Yeah.
Do you feel like Hawaii was almost like ooh, I don't know, like a foundation for you where you were shown all these beautiful ways of support that it almost instilled you with this deeper safety and knowing that you could, I don't know, just be more ready or prepared. I don't even know if those are the right words, but just open, I guess, more open to the things that came next, your
Mhm.
next steps when you then after Hawaii, like, correct me if I'm wrong, you went to Turkey, right?
Exactly. Yes, yes.
Yeah. And so yeah, how did like do you feel that way at all? Like Hawaii being a foundational experience for you?
Yeah, I think you said it exactly and beautifully because definitely it was for me the foundation of trust and of like openness, open my heart and just like ability to receive, ability to ask for help. Because this is
Yeah.
another topic. I don't ask for help. I can make it on my own. I will figure it out on my own. I'm strong enough to do
Oh,
it on my
this is
own.
so
But no,
good.
it's not like that. It's just so healthy to ask for help. It's just so healthy to receive help. It's so healthy to be able to experience like there is another way than I just thought there is. And this is all what Hawaii gave me, and it was so encouraging me in so many levels, and gave me this deep level of trust within me and in life and in everything and support. And it's absolutely like it comes from the decision to receive, and then after it's going to be multiplied, but how I was such a flower for me for my life. Yeah.
Oh,
And then yes, and then when I flew to Turkey, I really noticed myself even like I flew first to Slovakia and then I flew to Turkey, like that was like very short stop at home, and I just noticed myself how open I am and how I'm able to connect with people on different level. And even on my flight back from Hawaii, I as well sit next to the guy passenger, and I had such a beautiful conversation with him. and I felt so like so beautifully open and encouraging to share and to speak, and like it felt so magical for me. Like I don't think so I had such experience in my life before, and I really noticed the difference in my life, like before Hawaii and after the Hawaii. And yeah, it
Oh,
was
so beautiful. And I
it was
think,
very good starter.
yeah, I think what's even more powerful is the the way that Hawaii came to you in that breathwork session. And like for people listening, they're
Yes.
like, what? I personally experienced this when I actually was in Valencia. So this was last year when I traveled to Spain. I knew that I was going to
Yes.
India for a month after my
Uh-huh.
2 month stay in Spain. And I didn't know where to go next because I didn't buy a return ticket home. I was like, after India, I know I want to go somewhere. And I was like, do I go to Bali? Like, I wanted to travel to another part of the world before I came back home.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a dream about an old man telling me that I need to go to Lisbon. And
Mm-hmm.
just out of curiosity, the next morning, I woke up and I looked up flights to Lisbon from India because I had been like researching. This was a week before I was leaving to India, by the way. So, like, I didn't have much time. I had to buy something because I wasn't going to buy it in India. And, like, again, I honored that little nudge and I just
Yeah.
checked flights. And it just so happened those were the easiest tickets, the cheapest, the most direct. Like, it was just so easy. And it was because I was curious and I just was open to seeing what that could be. And it sounds like you did the exact same when you got this little visual. Oh, I don't want to say little, it was a big visual, really, because it was so impactful
Yeah,
in your
it was big
life.
one.
Yeah. And so, anyone tuning in, it's like those moments where, whether it's a dream, someone mentioned something to you, but like it sparks something in you. Because the moment where I woke up, I was like, I just felt it. I'm like, I need to figure out
Mm-hmm.
what this is. And it sounds like you had a very similar experience after your session, as you expressed to Samson. Like, there's something here, and you even when you got there, you felt this feeling of home, like you've been there before. And
Yeah.
it all was because you honored what was on your heart. And so, big reminder, just people tuning in, never dismiss those nudges because they're there for a reason. And to hear your story and to hear the impact that this experience had for you is just so profound. So I'm so grateful to hear that. It brought up so much in me, reminders from previous experiences that really were just, yeah, I'm really feeling just so much gratitude and appreciation for how I've too always been supported, especially as
Yes.
like thoughts of doubt and maybe like scarcity come up for me. I'm like, wait a second, I'm always just being beautifully held by God. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's like that. So thank you, Barbara, for your shares. I'd love to ask you about your relationship and your partnership, because before we press record, you started sharing some stuff, and of course, like, gosh, it sparked a lot in me, of course, because very synchronistic and similar things I'm navigating too. But could you tell us about what happened when you got to Turkey and how you met your partner, and maybe just an overview of how that's been for you? And from there, we could dive deeper. But yeah, I'd love to go there with you.
Yeah, so the Turkey was another magical experience for me because I traveled there to complete my in-person training of neo emotion releases. And this was like a big container space retreat and training in the same time, where we met with 60 like-minded people. And one of these person who I met there is my partner right now. And as well, how our story started was really interesting because in the beginning I was not really like seeing him as a my potential partner or as someone who I would like to date or anything like that. It was just that we had a couple of conversation, and then we had this very huge portal release in our one of our sessions. And like in this huge session of these 50 people, that was really powerful experience because many women started to cry all at once because this portal was open of grief and of sadness and of anger and of everything. And I was basically, we were like sitting in the half circle, and I was in front, and I couldn't allow myself to cry because I felt that I I I cannot. I have to hold it. I have to be strong. I have to hold it all together. And um, my partner was sitting like now my partner in this time, just one of the trainees
A
as well.
complete
Well,
stranger.
yes, was sitting like two seats behind me. And after all this portal closed, basically he came to me and he told me, during this portal, when a lot of women were crying, I felt the need to come to you and to hold your back, to support you from your back, because I felt like you need it, because it's like you wanted to be too strong. And I was like, yes, how did you know it?
Wow.
And I was like, wow, this is so powerful. And he said like, yeah, I just felt the need, but I just didn't do it. And I was like, oh my God, if you would do it, I would immediately start to cry in that moment. And basically that was like a first really, really big connector. And from that time we started to meet more and talk more. And as well, I didn't imagine my future partner like him, so I didn't even like think of like this is a chance for us or anything. But in another session which I had during the somatic release session and emotional release session, the voice came to me and spoke to me, and I felt like how much resisting I'm love. And imagine that I was already so much open after Hawaii, because this happened just after Hawaii. So I was already so much open and so much more receiving, but I still could not receive love from that kind of that kind of love. And in that session, the voice came to me and told me, you can either live this life through love or through suffering, or through trust or through pain, and you choose. And this was so deep for me, because I noticed how much more I am choosing suffering than love, and how much more I am choosing fear than trust in my life. And in that moment, I said to myself, okay, I then choose, in this case, the trust and the love. And and then we reconnected in such a level. We started to share ourselves more vulnerably. And when the training ended, we decided to meet in another 2 weeks or 3 weeks. And in that time, we met, and we were both very much having so much more expectations from what's gonna happen, how it should happen. And it all felt like we wanted to be together, but somehow our our realities were just trying to merge too fast and too much, and it was like we were
Yeah.
too much in attachment projection, you
It's
know.
like you were
Does it
trying to
resonate?
figure, yeah, it's like you were trying to figure out all the details and maybe like control a little bit instead of
Yes,
what felt
yes,
so organic and natural and unexpected at the beginning.
yes,
Now, like the fear probably kicked in and logistics. And you mentioned he lives in Germany and you live in
yes.
Slovakia. So I'm sure that was probably a factor of like, well, how are we going to be together and see each other? All very rational, objective, logical things, and I can see where they could be ruled by fear of like having to figure that out.
Yeah, absolutely. And not just like this kind of I would say always logistic things as you mentioned, but even those underneath layers of conditioning, and like how usually we receive love as children from our mother for the first time. That's how we project our love to our partners in the future.
Oh yeah.
And this is something what I learned so much through this relationship, because then what happened not long after this time together, basically a deep depression to my partner came. It was because of too much closeness and too much connection, and this was all very triggering for him. And in that moment when this came up for him, I was like left kind of pushed out from the relationship because he felt unsafe to be with me while he was experiencing that, because as well he was not used to be in a safe space. He was not used to have someone close to him through the pains he went through in his life, and it just felt too triggering for him to be witnessed, to be seen like that, to be so vulnerable in front of the woman, especially from the point of view of men being vulnerable in front of the woman, and men, let's say, opening up and showing their insecurities and their painful points. So many women can perceive it, oh, this is a big man, he is not able to hold me, how he's able to be there for me. And this is so misunderstood, I would say, because absolutely, it was my case too. That first I was perhaps, even though not consciously, but unconsciously projecting this on him. But thanks to that capacity we have built through our self-fiery work on our own, we could meet ourselves in that space and we could witness each other in this space. And thanks to the container we have, even slowly we're building together, and especially the depth in which we met, because we met in this beautiful neo-emotional training where we really went to so many layers deep, and we already like met in such a deep level. And through that months, I have been there for him, and he was really showing me how he's ready to let go of that victim mentality, of that side of him that he is not safe when he's being vulnerable. And the same for me, it was really practicing like how to be in this relationship without being attached to the relationship, how to keep my autonomy, how to respect my needs without how to respect both the needs of the relationship and my own needs, because this is again something what was really present for me throughout my whole life. I felt there is like part of me which doesn't feel fully understood with my partners, and I really understood in this relationship that it was something what I was unconsciously choosing, because I didn't feel as a child fully understood by my mother. Then I was projecting it on the relationship that I was not fully understood because I was not fully opening up to my partners. I always kept the part of me suppressed, and I was kind of hiding it because I felt like I cannot share this part of me because I'm not going to be understood. And it was less painful for me to be not understood than I would be not loved or rejected or like pushed away. And
Oof.
and through this relationship I could really touch this wound and heal it, because now I am able to communicate with him very uncomfortable things. I can share with him something what feels threatening for me to share in the first place, but then I decide to share it with him because I feel safe enough to do that. And even though that, of course, we still have our days when our capacity changes, because not every day our capacity is so open to receive and to be so open to work on this. I know that we are able to recognize what is our conditioning and what is our projection doing, like who is running the show, if it's our projections or if it's like real true unconditional love, which is coming from the depth of us. And we are able to really move through so many layers of this and it's so beautiful because it feels so expansive in the end. It feels like I'm able to soften more than ever before. I'm able to receive love than ever before. I'm able to not be in control and to surrender to that, because as well like to be in control. It's a little things like, did you lock the car? Did you
Yeah,
did you,
the details. Why
did you
did
lock
you
the door?
why did you leave your jacket on the couch again after I told you to hang it up like 500 times?
Yes, yes. Like, are you gonna clean the dishes? And if it's not done in 5 minutes, are you going to really do it? Like, it's a
Yeah.
little thing. When I speak about the trust, I don't just mean this big trust. Like, of course, I trust you. I choose you. I want to be with you. It's not just that kind of trust. Like, I trust you with my life, and you trust me with your life. But I mean, it's everyday life, little things, and it's just so beautiful to be with someone who I feel safe to that he's my mirror and I'm his mirror, and we can move through these projections together and communicate it, and learning how to be more and more playful in the relationship, with regards of like not just doing the serious growth work, but like just to be fun around each other and like do silly things, and yeah.
Yeah, well, I want to start by just saying like thank you for sharing all of that. I don't know. I feel a little tender right now. I feel quite emotional like hearing you talk about all this because oh man, I'm like so emotional right now. Because I am literally feeling everything you were saying about your partner with mine. And right before we
Mm.
jumped on this call, I actually had a mentorship call with my mentor, and I'm in this beautiful little mastermind. It's kind of like a mini mind because there's only two other women in it, but it's this beautiful, intimate space. It's my mentor and the three of us. And I was expressing in the group, something that I've been feeling recently with my partner is this divide that I'm in between letting him take care of me. And you talked so beautifully about this this inherent tendency that for myself, I know it's very, cultural, and I definitely grew up with it. I witnessed all my moms and my aunties, and I could go that down that route. But I recognize that it is also a responsibility and obligation for myself to look at it and own it for myself and release it. And it's this tendency to want to control and be very, pushing against the receiving and allowing him to take care of me, while at the same time also maintaining this autonomy that I've worked so hard to build over the last several years. I mean, my journey of traveling the last 4 or 5 years was all about that, is connecting with myself, being unafraid and pushing past all those stories and narratives that I can't do this on my own and all that. And I feel like I'm in a place where I have learned all those lessons. And so, how do I find the balance now, maybe in the season of life, of staying true to all that I garnered, of my independence and my autonomy, while also allowing myself to receive and be taken care of and not feel threatened, because my ego will get activated sometimes and be like, he wants to do something for me. And I'm like, oh, I could do it myself, or I could do it better, and it's that controller in me. And it's such a
Evelina,
journey.
I just ask you one thing, and that is like, of course you can do it on your own, but do you really want to?
I know. I know. It's literally, I need to sticky note that question somewhere. It's like, do I actually want to? And
Yes.
if I really sit with that question, no. And if I'm honest with myself, it's like, it's that part of me that wants to prove to myself, or prove to, deep down, maybe my mom, of course. When you were talking about this, part of you that felt misunderstood, or I forget how eloquently you said it, but it's like you didn't feel maybe that you could speak up or ask for what you want because in the past you were misunderstood. And I'm like, oh my gosh, are you in my head? Because that's what I've been grappling with. I mean, literally this week, that's kind of been a lesson that's been reappearing in all these little ways where, my partner has mentioned these little things around what he wants to do, and I kind of tune myself out of the equation, and I maybe say yes when I want to actually say no, and I forget
Mm.
to just like remember myself of like what my needs are, while also being conscious of, not being over controlling and all that. So it's this like delicate dance an awareness that I keep
Yeah.
oscillating between. But the bigger thing that I just want to say and address to everything you share that I think is so beautiful that I've been feeling too, and I hope, for people listening, is what this relationship for you has been. It feels like is it's been through the discomfort, through these moments that you've had to be very honest and uncomfortable and really brave in whether it's asking for what you want or holding space for him or just paying more attention to some of the thoughts and fears that are coming up is through these moments, the discomfort, it has been an invitation for you to heal and to come to understand love deeper, which I don't know. I have been sitting with this for myself so much. In the last year for me with Lewis, with my partner, has been so beautiful and expansive, but the most uncomfortable journey. Like, I mean, I don't know. When people talk about finding the one and them selling it like when you know, I'm over here and I'm like, is that really true? Because like, yeah, I know Lewis is my partner, but like it's not rainbows and butterflies. Like most of the days, it is so uncomfortable and it is so challenging because I am met with these parts of myself that I don't want to look at. My ego is so threatened. And I think it's so important to find someone who you truly feel safe with. And this is the first time I could say, like, I genuinely feel safe with my partner because these parts of me come out, these fears are expressed, I project onto him, I control, but he meets me with love. And because he meets me with love, I don't really have like a reason to run away or escape. I'm like, fuck, like I have to look at this. But because he's a safe space and I've worked so hard on learning how to communicate, we work through it. And so I guess I just want to say for people out there like listening, like those moments that feel uncomfortable in relationships, there are always two choices of like running or facing. And of course, this is where discernment comes in too, because like there are situations that are like chaos. And this is too where like you have to be mindful of like what steps you need to take. But I always just, it's really like, I don't know, I'm seeing it so much more. It's like an invitation to really go internal and look at what is it within you that essentially is like projecting out onto the other person that's facilitating this in a way to happen. And so I don't know, I'm going off on tangents, but I just like, I don't know, hearing your story just activated so much within me. And it's just allowed me to really have such an appreciation for all the messiness, like the icky parts that I
Yeah.
have felt so many feels about. But at the end, it's just so much gratitude because I've learned so much of myself in the process, and it sounds like you have too. So I'm so grateful for you sharing that, Barbara.
Yeah, it's so beautiful. Even the words you were using now, it's just beautifully describing the process and especially the intimacy part. As you mentioned, the intimacy it can be only gained through the conflicts. You know, when we face those conflicts and when we face those challenging situations, and what we're going to choose. Are we going to move through that, or we are going to close the door on it and walk away? Because once we choose to walk away, then probably what's going to happen is that we are going to meet someone else and we are going to just come across the same challenges.
Right.
And yes, the safety in relationship is so important, like just to know that you can show yourself fully, truly, and even though that you feel sometimes scared and you feel uncomfortable and you feel like challenged and you feel like it just sucks. I mean, if there is safety, just go for it. Open yourself. Like, what else you going to lose? Like, you cannot lose more than you are losing yourself, and you don't want to be in relationship when you lose yourself. You want to be yourself in the relationship. So I think this is like the biggest thing. And as well, what I wanted to share is that we have so many wounds coming from our past, which happened in the relationship, and how we can only heal these wounds is through relationship. We cannot heal them on our own. So many people step on their healing journey or step on their coaching or mentorship or whatever, and they are there on their own and they think that they are going to heal these wounds on their own. But the truth is that if certain wounds happen in the relationship, you can only heal them through the relationship. And I don't mean the romantic relationship only. I mean the relationship, especially with our caregivers, with our parents. Those are the first relationship we come across in a life, and that's where we experience the first love. And especially those wounds are the most impactful for our life, and those are exactly healed through the romantic relationship with our partner. And
Yeah, no, it is so incredible because I've seen it in my own life to witness how the discomfort and the lessons that get unearthed with my intimate partnership, my romantic partnership with my boyfriend, it's allowed me to also heal and look at my relationships with my family, with my mom, with my dad in such different ways. And to the thing you're saying about healing through another person, this resonates so much for me, and this is something that, in my mastermind group we talk a lot about. In You need, like, those other people, those mirrors in your life being so necessary
Mhm.
for you, because without them, like, you can't see it. You literally, like, wouldn't be able to recognize it on your own. And so I really have been just anchoring into the belief that, and it sounds so counterintuitive, but it feels, for me at least, it's like, how do I have gratitude for the discomfort? Because that discomfort is meant for an opportunity for me to see something differently, for me to heal something, to release something, to find deeper peace. And so, how do you stay open and invite that? I think it's so, our first inclination as humans, always when we're met with uncomfortable feelings, is to push them away. And so,
Mhm.
how do we make space for them and welcome them and appreciate them for being in our lives? Because they're there to show us something, they're there to teach us something. And so, I've been really, and it's so much easier said than done, but really have been trying to practice this, especially with my boyfriend, of those moments where I'm uncomfortable, of like going into that discomfort, not running away from it. I mean, he doesn't give me much space to run away. I will just say, like, now we live together.
Thanks
If I'm
God.
upset for 10 minutes, he will follow me and he'll be like, "What is bothering you?" And I'm like, "Oh my God, I need to meditate and journal for like 2 hours and I need to process my feelings and then I need to talk to you about it." But that used to be my old pattern. But now I'm like, okay, how do I actually, because you are a safe space for me, instead of me going off on my own and sitting with my journal and like all that, not to dismiss that, because sometimes that's really good too. But I think in this season for me, it's actually trusting him more and trusting that I
Mhm.
can talk to him and that he could be the mirror and the reflection that I need to help me understand what's happening. Whereas before, when I was on my own, or maybe even in past relationships, I would lean on my own practices to help me understand. Now it's like, wait, I have this person in front of me that's so open and willing to help me. How do I just allow him to help me heal and allow him to help me see this in a way that's probably faster, easier, and just more, I don't know, like, yeah, just better, essentially, in the end,
Yeah.
for me to make those conclusions and, those things on my own, or rather with him than on my own. So,
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And it's all about like how we communicate as well, because like in that crisis when you feel like you want to run away and just close yourself for 2 hours and don't talk to him. Oh
mhm.
my God, I find myself in those situations so often
Yeah.
too. But it is exactly about like starting to communicate just what is present. So instead of like shaming it that I feel angry and I feel overwhelmed and I feel they don't unsatisfied, just communicate like I just feel like this and I feel like this because you've done this and this made me feel like this. And just like once we start to communicate freely what is present for us, there is so much truth coming out of it, because suddenly we realize like, oh, my partner didn't know this, that I felt like this because of that. So for example, just to be more relatable, like I want to cook the dinner with my partner, but my partner wants to cook the dinner for me. And then when I come to the kitchen and I start to help him by making the dinner, he gets pissed at me. So what I feel is like I feel like pushed away. But all he wanted is to take care of me and to cook a dinner for me. But all I wanted is to cook the dinner together. But because we didn't communicate our needs clearly, I feel in the end pushed away and like disconnection, and he feels like I'm controlling and taking over what he wanted to do. So you see, like it's so simple that the one situation makes us feel so different, but all is essentially doing is triggering for us the core wounds we have on each other. And then when we can reconnect after something like this happens, and we can communicate what is present for us and what was my idea, what was his idea, and how we can move through this, and suddenly we can like really come closer to each other through this what seems to be a conflict. And yeah, it's so important to as well communicate. Like sometimes we feel unlovable because we are angry, we feel unlovable because we are being sick, or we are not strong enough to do certain activities, or we feel unlovable because we are not appearing capable enough, or whatever it is. So it's as well so important to ask my partner, like, is it true you love me less because I am not like this or like that? And our partner usually would look at us and say, like, what are you talking about? I
Yeah.
love you just as you
But
are.
like in our
and
head, we're like, what? Some
and
crazy
and
story.
was like and just this kind of communication helps us to embody that new truth within us.
Yeah.
And this is what essentially the relationships are for, like, to really, once we have a better relationship with ourselves, that's when we have it with our partner, and with everyone else, as you mentioned, with your mom, with your other family members. You notice
Yeah.
like the relationship has changed. So I just like encourage people, go for it. Like, it's uncomfortable, go for it. Just speak
Yeah.
and express yourself. And
Yeah. Communication is
yeah.
definitely something to practice. I've seen my communication improve so much. Actually, as you were talking about, like, the kitchen example, I was thinking of something that happened last weekend with my partner and I.
Mhm.
I was feeling so angry because I had asked him to help me clean. Of course, it's like my Polishness always is like about cleaning for some reason. Because that's where I feel like I have this like sense of control too. Maybe because, I don't know, watching my mom clean all the time, whatever it is.
Yeah.
But I was just feeling so angry inside, but I was so aware at the same time that normally what I would do in the past is I would just yell at him or just say something to trigger him or project. I would project onto him. But
Mhm.
I was like angry, but at the same time I'm like, don't project. Evelina, like, don't project. And so when he came out of the shower, I just stood there and I was like, babe, I have to tell you, I feel so angry right now, but I want to
Mhm.
talk to you about it and just tell you why instead of like yelling at you or whatever. And we had a conversation about it. And it was so beautiful that
Mhm.
afterwards I will say I hadn't experienced that. I mean, there have been moments, of course, where we've been able to work through conflict in that way. But because I will say that was the first time where my emotions were so rattled inside. And it was like I was so proud of myself for not projecting them because they were so heightened, that it was such a powerful reminder for me that I can do this, that I have worked on this so much, that I've practiced this, I had applied it, it ended up working out beautifully. And so, yeah, it was that first thing, again, breaking the patterns like we talked about at the beginning. Just
Yeah, so beautiful.
continuing to practice that because it does get easier. And the other thing I just want to mention, because, this whole topic too that we're talking about with relationships, and I think you mentioned it at the beginning with your partner, is there was a lot that was coming up for him as you were showing him love. And I feel like for myself and Lewis, my boyfriend, I have been on the receiving end of that love. And he has needed to hold a lot of space for me and support me through it. And what I have realized in, our relationship, and from you also sharing too, is this realization that for many of us, growing up with whatever circumstances, whether our parents weren't present or even if they were, but there was just things that we internalized, stories that we held on to. It's like, it's making me realize, like, how many of us have actually experienced real love, like real, safe, beautiful love in our life. And for those of us who think we have, because I thought I have, but then I meet Lewis and he like shows me love that I never even thought was possible. That immediately, instead of being like, oh, yay, I deserve this, or finally, like alarm bells go off for me. And the
Yeah.
questions that I have in my brain are like, is this too good to be true? Like, is he going to like leave me or cheat on me or whatever, or something's going to happen? It's like, that's where my mind goes. And I think I want to, I definitely, I want to mention this because one, hearing your story with your partner, it's made me realize like, I feel like this is pretty common and like so many people probably deal with this. But for me, it has, if I had to summarize all the kind of lessons for my relationship, this has probably been the biggest, of opening myself up to real love. And at the same time, witnessing where the stories come up and the fear comes up, and recognizing that that is just the fear that's coming up that is trying to take me and keep me away from receiving that love. And this is why I think a lot of people will either sabotage or turn away from the discomfort because they confuse it with the genuine, authentic, real love with it maybe being a threat or something. And unfortunately, for a lot of us who haven't, maybe grown up with that or familiar with that, it's easy to almost confuse that distinction. And this is where I have seen for myself, that's where the work comes in, and facing that discomfort and opening myself up to continuously just receiving a little bit more love, a little bit more love. So I really appreciate you sharing that and just like talking so openly and vulnerably about helping your partner navigate that season, because it's personal to me. And I also feel like this could be a lot that resonates for a lot of people who, again, are just unfamiliar with it.
Yes, and thank you as well that you like shared as well about your relationship and everything what is coming up for him, because that's exactly that. Like it feels so threatening. It feels so dangerous. It feels like this is so something bad, right? That I feel so good or that I feel so different than I used to feel. But it's so beautiful that you trust that deeper truth within you and you can move through that. And it's so beautiful that you have a partner who can hold that space for you too. I think that this is like so important in a relationship, that you create that safe space for each other, that you can hold that safe container for each other's unfolding, and don't expect that you're going to meet a perfect person from day one. Or as I was mentioning, like I imagine my perfect partner differently before I met
Same.
my partner. It's a story,
Yeah,
and
but you stayed, it's so
it's,
lovely to hear that you still stayed open to that, because I experienced
yeah.
the same thing. He approached me at our gym, like we were working out next to each other, and I had never seen him. And again, I didn't know after the first time that we were going to be together, because he's not my type of person. And it's led me to really, really just believe that what you think that you want isn't ultimately what God knows that you need. And that is
Mhm.
something that's a massive lesson I have learned from that. And I don't know if that resonates for you at all, too, because it feels like we had similar beliefs about, this ideal partner. And trust me, I've done
Mhm.
manifestation lists and wrote out like, my person needs to have this quality and this quality. And I've manifested my ex-boyfriend that I was with, like an ex-partner. We could say I manifested him. I wrote the list out. He came into my life. I'm like, wow, you're exactly what I wanted. But that didn't go according to plan. And so, come Lewis, and I'm like, wait a minute, this isn't what I ever thought. And it's like, I think with that, it's been such a lesson for me of, like I mentioned, knowing that there is someone higher, there's God ultimately, that actually knows what your best interest is. And as much as we think that we know, I had to get very real and honest with myself about where my ego was really dictating a lot of my decisions. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I don't know. I'm curious if that lands at all for you or if you felt that, because that was a lot of what was coming up for me of like, oh, I actually have no idea what I want. But that's okay in a way, in that regard, because God knows.
Yeah. So my relationship with the God or with the like higher knowing is such an unfolding journey. So what I know is that we are ultimately creations of God, and that means that we have within ourselves the same power like the God has, because we are the source. So it is all about first of all, not just that the God knows what is the best for us, and God is like telling us what or where, but that truth is ultimately within us. We don't have to wait for the outside we don't have to wait only for the outside signs or only for the outside circumstances or the synchronicities, because they don't come unless we make the decision inside of us, first of all to receive, and first of all to decide and choose from ourselves what we want. That is my
Mm,
what I experience in my life. Like if I want to receive love, first I want to love myself, so then I can receive love, and then I can get all the synchronicities from outside, or the um or like different god beings, as you mentioned from the
yeah.
from the book. And yes, it's all important to listen to those and to notice those, but know that that deep truth within ourselves, and again, like that truth within ourselves can be sometimes confusing, because our program inside of ourselves is just not updated. It's still running the old show, like the old programming we had as a children. So yes, it goes from within and from outside, and just like to ultimately notice ourselves, like how we feel, and to check in with ourselves, and to do practices which makes us feel connected to ourselves, so we can feel that truth within us, and we can observe as well our surroundings and everything. But I would say that we don't meet people in our life by coincidence.
Yeah.
They are ultimately here to show us exactly what we need to see about ourselves, and to move through this life with what we need to experience. Like, and it's like a magnet, you know. Like you can be in the deep, you can live in different states, like Slovakia and Germany, and we
Yeah.
ended up meeting in Turkey, you know. Or like something is gonna pull you closer to each other. And yeah, I questioned this many times myself, like how is it possible? But I think it's that power of magnetism. Like somehow we end up meeting each other exactly the way we need and the time we need, and is always teaching us some kind of lesson. And
Mm, yeah.
yeah.
Oh, yes. This hits home so, so much for me. And especially the piece on everyone coming into your life for a purpose. I have especially
Yeah.
been so grateful for that. Even if it's the stranger in the grocery store, or I
Hmm.
just, anyone passing you by on the street, like you never know how you can impact someone's life and what impact they could have on your life. So I
Yeah.
love that you have that perspective. And again, just thank you for diving deep this relationship piece. I feel like I don't know, it's like you've helped me just heal and recognize like a deep part of what I've been navigating, especially the last couple of weeks around the balance of the autonomy and
Hmm.
the receiving and the being supported by relationship. And yeah, I don't know. I hope people listening that, pieces of this have landed and resonated, and maybe planted some deeper questions around how you view partnership, whether you're in an existing partnership, looking to call in a new partner. There's so much here. Uh, Oh yeah, no. Oh, so so good, Barbara. Thank you. I can keep going with you for I think probably many many hours, but maybe we summarize and synthesize this chat, and we could do a part two in the future, however that looks like. The last kind of question I want to ask you before I get to my closing question is, when we were chatting on Instagram DMs, and this topic of change that I'm focusing the season of the podcast on, I've had so much change. You've clearly had so much that's unfolded for you in the last 2 years, especially since we last connected. I would just love to know how the topic, this energy of change and transitions for you, has just generally felt. I think there's a negative connotation that a lot of people associate with things being different and change happening. It sounds like for you, there's been so much growth and beauty that it's brought. So, if you can just speak to generally how life has felt related to change.
Yeah, so uh, change is ultimately something what is the only assurance in our life that we're going to change, and that is the only way how we can live this life through the change. So it is something what I learned to navigate with acceptance, even though that sometimes it comes with a fear, and it comes with like so much unknown. And this unknown, it's a space for both for like some beautiful creation, but as well sometimes this fear kicks in, and I start to have this kind of doubting questions like, what if this, what if that? And I start to just like navigate through yeah, doubts, I would say. And ultimately the change is always good for me. From my experience, it always got me closer to me. In change, I only met more myself. I only met more myself in the bigger truth. So it's always encouraging me that whenever like especially those unexpected changes comes up in a life, sometimes it makes me feel a bit shaky in the beginning, as I said, but then I just accept, surrender to that. And in those moments, like beautiful unfolding comes because it opens the door for me. I had not even idea that they exist. It gives me opportunities that I thought they are not for me, that they are only for some other people, or I just didn't even consider that this could be even an option for me in my life. And yeah, when I accept and when I welcome the change, I feel that, and when I know that the change is there for me to evolve, to let go of something. Also, I can welcome something new. I know that that is like something very rewarding. So even that it feels uncomfortable sometimes, I remember the previous experience of some event which was like very life changing. And yeah, then it's easier to welcome. And as well, it depends, because as I said, like some changes are unexpected and those are more difficult to welcome and accept, and some are absolutely deep soul calling necessary, and so inviting, and like for those changes I jump head on, and
Yeah.
I am ready to roll in. So it all depends on the situation, what kind of change. But yes, acceptance is something what really helps
Yeah,
for
I
me.
love it. I love it. And I think it's a beautiful way to close on this conversation of ours for now. Today, we could say. Before we officially end, I do want to ask my closing question I love to ask every guest, which is, what is your favorite memory of home?
Oh, cakes.
Cakes! Wait, tell me more. Tell me
Oh,
more.
when I hear home, I just imagine these homemade bakes, these homemade cakes from the
Oh,
sourdough, or some from cottage cheese, and it's
mm,
just like my mom and my grandma, they are always having some kind of cake at home. So for me, it's ultimately the first thing which comes. I can even smell them right now in this
oh,
room, even though there's no cakes. And since I live like 10 years abroad in Malta, like for every visit I'm coming home, it's a cake that I'm going to ask, that it's waiting for me when I come. So it's always like coming back home and my childhood and life nowadays. Yes,
oh, that is
it's
so beautiful. How do you say cake in Slovakian?
kolache.
Oh, okay. That's not what I was expecting. Placek or placki is how you say it in Polish. So I was like, is there any overlap there?
Ah,
Because it's so interesting. Like Polish and so much of the other Eastern European languages are similar. Like it's very similar to Czech. Like I can understand
yeah.
Czech if I read it because it's so similar. But I actually don't know
Mhm.
any Slovakian, so that's interesting to know.
Yeah, I mean they are like Slavic languages, so
Slavic,
of
yeah.
course they have like the same base, but Slovak and Czech is almost pretty similar. So I think that
Yeah.
you would understand some Slovak too.
Oh, well, when I venture back to Europe eventually, I would absolutely love to go see Slovakia because that's a country I've never been. So we will most definitely have to stay in touch. And again, I just thank you so
Yes.
much for being open to this conversation, for sharing all of the
Mhm.
beautiful just insights. Again, I don't know, I just feel like I mean to what you said, every single person in our lives always comes in for a reason. And I also believe every conversation you have is for such a powerful reason. And I really just felt God speaking through you in this chat for me, and hopefully a lot of people listening to whatever seasons of life you're navigating, whether that's travel or relationships or coming to know yourself deeper. So I just thank you, Barbara. Can you share with people where they can find you if they want to work with you? Do you offer online coaching or any type of things like that if people wanted to chat with you and come to know more about your services?
Yes, so yes, of course, I offer the online coaching or in-person coaching, and that is not just a coaching, but I would call it like a journey within through the somatic integration, emotional release, and of course, some holistic coaching. But mostly, we work with your body and with a deeper truth which is coming from within, like as I mentioned, like what happened through for me through my sessions, it was the ultimate journey in my life. So I trust in this so much, and people can reach me on my Instagram, which is Barbora, not Barbara. I will say it.
We'll include it in the show notes.
I will say it because like my name is Slovak, so obviously people are like, "What is Barbora?"
Yeah,
So Barbora underscore connect, and I have a website which is listed on the Instagram, so there is more details about ways to work with me and how to connect and everything. And yeah, oh, that is
amazing.
pretty
Yeah,
much
we'll link
this.
everything
Yes.
there in the show notes for people. Thank you so much again, Barbara. This was a
Thank you,
joy.
Evelyn. It was so nice to speak to you, and like to listen to you and your life experiences is just as inspiring as like a conversation to have about how your travels went as well, like
Mm,
your relationship journey. It feels like we have so much in resonance, and
truly, like
yeah.
we're living very parallel lives. It
Yes, yes,
sounds like
yes.
what you're going through, I have felt, or what I'm navigating, you're also going through. So, yeah, this was just
Wow,
so
it's
beautiful.
amazing.
Thank you.